We are excited to get started today. Welcome to your first Level Up training. Thank you so much for applying, for accepting, and for joining us for this year-long program. Before we start, hey, Catherine, are you able to mute the doorbell for everybody coming in? At least for me, I can hear all the wonderful folks that are joining.
I will give it my best shot.
Okay. Hi, YMCA. We've got a lot of great organizations from all different parts of Colorado and from all different missions. Okay. All right. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to your first Level Up program training with Colorado Gives Foundation, featuring, of course, Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy, who is helping us execute and run this course for you this year. All right, go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so this is something we like just to point out at the beginning of each of these training webinars. So this was recorded, now, June 2025, and all of these strategies are relevant, and we know that they work. If you have any questions about coloradogives.org, you should be emailing support@coloradogives.org. We have a full-time support team. And also, if you have any questions about anything that's covered today, we're going to give you the contact information for Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy in case you want to dig in deeper. Some of these strategies in 2026 and 2027 might evolve, and so that's why we always like to share this screen. All right, so for today, we are going to chat about Colorado Gives and the Level Up Digital Fundraising program. So just give you some of the basics as a review and make sure to answer any of your questions. We're going to talk about a 12-month roadmap and program expectations and impact. I'm excited for this. You're going to get to meet the entire team. So it's not just one or two folks supporting you. It's a big group of people that are hoping to make you successful and grow this year. And then we'll dive a little bit deeper into Canvas, the Canvas platform, just so you feel comfortable navigating after this webinar ends. For digital fundraising today, we want to make sure we are talking about the core components of digital fundraising, how it's a critical part of long-term organizational health, core characteristics of digital fundraising, and data-driven strategies to measure your success. So let's go ahead and get started. So hi, I'm Jordan. Probably should have done that at the beginning, but here I am. I am the Nonprofit Success Manager for coloradogives.org. It's a program of Colorado Gives Foundation. And I'm excited to be here and see a lot of the wonderful nonprofits that I've chatted with one-on-one and that we've seen engage in us with other resources and webinars. So let's chat about the Level Up programming, how we measure success, maybe some of your frequently asked questions, and the Level Up nonprofit resources. Okay, so first, I think it's always important to just define who is helping make this program possible. So this is year 3 of the Level Up Digital Fundraising program, and the program organizer is Colorado Gives Foundation. The program funder, so our partner in this, is Schlessman Family Foundation. So they are helping make this program possible for this cohort. The program facilitator and the experts in digital fundraising are Professor Jen Chang and the Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy team, which you'll be meeting here in just a sec. We also have Shoni Fields with us today, an expert in digital fundraising, which you'll meet here in a little bit. And then you guys. So the 2025 nonprofit cohort consists of 100 amazing Colorado nonprofits that are all focused on advancing their digital fundraising now. All right. So certainly we don't have to read every single piece of text here, but I wanted to make sure you felt comfortable with who's funding this program. Schlessman Family Foundation has been around since 1956, and here's the kicker. Since its inception, the foundation has contributed over $100 million to more than 1,000 charities. So they are in the business of making good happen and granting to organizations, especially in Colorado. They are also forward thinkers. So in addition to the grants that they are providing annually, they wanted to create a program that built capacity for the people that they were funding. So they started talking to us, and we came up with the Level Up program. Colorado Gives Foundation, in addition to being a community foundation for Jeffco, we run coloradogives.org statewide as an offering to all donors, nonprofits, fundraisers for philanthropy. So we are working primarily in Jeffco with funds that we grant. And then for all of Colorado, we are using and leveraging coloradogives.org to increase philanthropy for all nonprofits. If you want to read more, there is more about who we are, what we believe as Colorado Gives Foundation, and a little bit more details on what we do. Something we didn't mention here at the beginning is that this webinar is being recorded, and the slide deck and webinar will be available afterwards in Canvas. So don't feel like you have to feverishly type all the notes. It will be available to you afterward. Okay. So within the Level Up Digital Fundraising course, we are hoping to fuel your future, both you as an individual and your nonprofit as a whole. So we want you to take from June now, 2025 to June 2026 to really lean in, leverage these experts that you're going to be exposed to, and also take in the different resources that are available through this program. We want you to raise more money. We want you to learn how to acquire and retain more donors. We want you to specifically focus on raising more during Colorado Gives Day. And then also, you're going to see that trickle into your year-round campaigns. We want you to learn and grow alongside other nonprofit professionals. So in the forum spaces, in Canvas, your learning platform, you're going to be able to engage with all of your peers. And then we also are going to offer you a copywriting course where you can earn a certificate in fundraising copywriting. And because this is year 3, I'm allowed to say some nonprofits have claimed it's life-changing. So get excited for that September month-long course. All right, so there's 3 program elements to level up. First is the strategy. So what we're doing today, talking about digital fundraising, meeting together in a webinar, and then also the copywriting courses. So training you on how to execute the marketing and the strategies that make you raise more. We also focus on technology, of course. So providing you and making you as familiar as possible with coloradogives.org to meet some of your different needs year round and for Colorado Gives Day. And then we're also paying for the embeddable donation form on Colorado Gives. So if you opted into that during your application for Level Up, you have that live and available to you now on Colorado Gives. We also want to make sure we're not just sending a bunch of info your way. We want to help you be successful in executing these strategies. And so in addition to the wonderful Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy team, we're also offering Catchafire, which is available to all Colorado Gives nonprofits. Catchafire is going to be built into the program. So as we talk about different strategies, we're going to highlight different Catchafire projects that you could be posting to get volunteers and experts to help you with your work. So we'll talk more about that. Go ahead and change to the next slide. So when we talk about applying new strategy, we want you guys to be really focused, but we also don't want to waste your time. We want this to be a really specific program and experience that makes you feel good, lifts you up, and of course, increases the amount of donations that you're getting online. So we'll have these monthly webinars that are 90 minutes, 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. That schedule is in Canvas. We also want to obtain actionable insights from you, which we have been over the last 2 and 3 years. So we want to share with you what we've learned in the past 2 years, what we've learned from other Colorado Gives nonprofits, and how we can make Colorado Gives Day the best for you. This is going to be engagement opportunities for you. So within that Canvas platform, which we'll talk about a little bit more, you're going to have the ability to engage with each other, learn from each other, and of course, learn from the Institute's team of experts. And then, like I mentioned, you're going to get a certification. So you're allowed to put that on your resume after this course. And we'll talk more about that. Learning new tech. So the long and the short of it is we want you to become more familiar so that at the end of this year, you know when you can go to coloradogives.org, leverage those tools to enhance the fundraising campaigns that you're doing. We also want you to explore the Colorado Gives embeddable donation forms. Now you might be like, what are you talking about, Jordan? These are forms that you're able to embed on your external website to collect donations. It will be processed the same way donations are processed through coloradogives.org, except you're keeping folks on your website, which is what we want, right? And making that donation process easy. So we're going to talk a lot more about that. But if you have any upfront questions, I encourage you to reach out to me or to support regarding your embeddable form. And last element here is we want you to build your capacity. So again, we're not just trying to flash some strategies at you. We're trying to make these strategies attainable, actionable, and then for things that maybe you need a little bit more support on, you can use Catchafire to connect you with experts that are volunteering their time. So maybe you need to set up automated emails. Maybe you need a website refresh. We had 39 nonprofits in 2025 so far have full website updates, all free through Catchafire. So this is a great resource for you as we're going along to kind of prioritize and get things done. All right, so that's a little bit of the orientation of the program and the 3 elements that we focus on to raise more, help you raise more funds. Now let's chat quickly about the Level Up session schedule. So just really wanted to flash these numbers in front of you. It's also in Canvas, but to just show you what you're going to experience in the next couple months. So June, today, hello, we're doing it. And then July 16th, we have another webinar, August 6th. September, we pause any webinar trainings for the copywriting course. And then October and November, we meet again to get you guys ready and in a position to be really successful for end of year fundraising and for Colorado Gives Day. Then we give you a little bit of a break because we all know we need it. So December and January, there is a pause in any of the Canvas activity as well as webinars. And that's really for you to start to evaluate and take a look at how you did in 2025. In February, we're going to talk a little bit more about using philanthropic psychology to elevate your fundraising year-round. So not just for Colorado Gives Day. We're then going to have a debrief. So we're giving you a little bit of time, and then we're going to debrief in March about how your results were for Colorado Gives Day and what's next. And April and May to finish out the course, and it officially ends at the start of June. And so that is what you can expect in these next 12 months. We are so excited to bring it to you and to learn alongside you and to support you along the way. Your expectations for Level Up, we want you to attend all Zoom webinars live. And if you can't, which we know that things come up, we want you to tell the Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy team because we are tracking attendance. We want you to complete those weekly exercises with ISP, Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy, in Canvas. We want you to test and try and embed the Colorado Gives donation form. And we want you to do this before November 1st. And I'll tell you why in a sec. We want you to take the mid-year level up survey that we send you. So a requirement of the course just for us to check in and get a pulse on how things are going. And of course, we want you to implement some of what you learn immediately, especially for Colorado Gives Day. And also create a long-term plan. What can you implement now? What can you implement in the future? All right, here's the good stuff. The rewards of Level Up. So by participating in the Level Up program, all nonprofits who embed their donation form before November 1st, they're gonna get $1,000 in matching grant prizes for December 9th. So the big day, Colorado Gives Day. We'll also award nonprofits an additional match amount on Colorado Gives Day, December 9th, based on your attendance and engagement in Canvas in all of the trainings. And one thing I'll note here, in addition to the program rewards and the match funds that we provide, you, and we'll talk about this, of course, more during the sessions, are also encouraged to identify your own matching grants to set up for Colorado Gives Day and year round, because that's the #1 driver of more donations. All right, I want to take a quick look back at 2022, just so we all feel comfortable with the success of last year and how we're going to carry it through and improve even more this year. So overall satisfaction for the cohort of nonprofits last year, they said 92% would recommend this program to others, 98% agree it's a reminder of the foundation of digital fundraising. So we had some great satisfaction in 2024 from that mid-year survey. In addition, 80% of all of these survey respondents, so the nonprofits that participated last year, they agree that the program helps them achieve fundraising goals, increase your capacity as an organization, and it was a good use of your time. So we know we are asking for some of your time, which is valuable, but we want you to know that you are going to get returns from the time you invest in this program. And some results. So last year, we do an analysis at the end of each year for the cohort of nonprofits just to see how you did. We saw a 63% increase in year-over-year median revenue. And by revenue, we mean the donations that were raised on the Colorado Gives platform for organizations that participated in year 2. How exciting is that? 63% increase. So certainly each year we evolve the content, the program, our partners, but I am so excited to bring to you the same success that we saw last year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen Chang and Shoni Field. Thank you all for being here.
A very warm welcome. Thank you very much. In this beautiful weather in your part of town, is it? I've got sunshine here outside in England, which is very rare. So I hope you all have sunshine out of your rooms. And what you see is a collection of smiles that feels like sunshines that you will meet throughout the next 12 months. So myself, Jen Chang, I'll be here constant. I'm the constant contact throughout the year. You'll see me in every webinar. You'll see me in all your courses. And I work with my absolute outstanding colleagues. Shoni Field, you meet today. Charlie, you meet next month. And Beata, you will meet the month after. So they will come and provide us with the webinar support. We design your programs together. We design your discussion forums together. We will also comment on your discussion forums together with you when you log into your Canvas platform. So these first 3 tutors, Shoni, Charlie, and Beata, they will be the tutors who host your monthly webinars and carry out your monthly discussion forums. While Catherine, Wendy, Jennifer, and Pauline, Catherine is here waving at you. These 4 tutors, they will be with you in the copywriting class in September. And here I would like to note the intensity difference between your monthly activities versus the 4 weeks that you will have in September. So the monthly activities is kind of like your warm-up act. It gives you a flavor of what you might get in the copywriting class, but the copywriting class is very intense. So those 4 weeks in September, where you have weekly, not monthly content, I would want to forewarn you that those weeks will be very heavy for you. So if you think about the work you do on a monthly basis in June, July, August, you'll be doing that kind of load every week during the week of September. So I would just want to make sure that you're aware of that rhythm difference. And once you finish the copywriting class, it will come back down into this monthly rhythm. But for September, you would want to budget some time. How many hours do you think per week in September? Personally, I would budget a minimum of 5 hours. But what I would also say is that in this program, the more hours you put in, the more values you get out. At the bare minimum, you can just come here, watch this webinar 90 minutes and don't do a thing afterwards. And that's might be what you wanted to get, and that would be fine. But if you decide to invest in following up in the discussion forums, have back and forth with our tutors, then for every exchange you have, you gain more value out of it. So we're all here to support you, and we're here to support you for as much work as you want to put into it. So it is your call that you can strategize how much time you want to spend. And in addition, we have the beautiful Becky Calino, who will be helping your dreams come true. So what is Becky's role here? She will be holding your hand every step along the way. If you have any questions, you can ask them on Canvas. Becky will get back to you. You have her email here. So starting from the end of this webinar today, any questions you have on the program itself, you're welcome to email Becky and she will help you through. For any technical problems, questions that you might have, you write to support@coloradogives.org. Becky takes you through all our educational content with Canvas. So anything related to webinars, discussion forums, copywriting class, she will be there for you. And you are obviously welcome to schedule one-to-one virtual call this June and July with Jordan to talk about your fundraising. Go to nonprofit resource page and email Catchafire. So these are your different collection of resources on the technology front. On the training front, Becky is your to-go person. So if I were you, I would either write Becky's email down or take a picture or do something so that it's easy for you to access, but Becky is your person. Of course, we all are, but yes, Becky is there for you every step along the way. Shoni, you want to slide? Yeah, awesome. So the next few slides, I'll just share with you if you have not had a chance to go to your Canvas platform. Thank you, all 88 of you who have accepted our invitation to join the learning platform. So when you log into this learning platform, really everything that you would ever need from this learning platform, you can see from the homepage. If you ever get lost, just go back to the homepage, scroll all the way down, you will find all the resources you would ever need, starting from the homepage. So to start with, this page should be what you see when you log in. So you know you're in the right place, level of digital fundraising program. If you go to the next slide, Shoni, you will see what you will see if you scroll down that page. You will see the information of every single monthly webinar we have right here. The Zoom link, you can add them into your calendar invite. If I were in your shoes, I would add them all in today. So they're all in your schedule. They won't get anywhere else. And if you scroll, if you keep scrolling on the next slide, you will see when these webinars are going to be, what kind, if you have technical problem with the platform itself, who you can contact. On the next slide, you can see exactly how you use all different elements of the Canvas platform. And here, what I would like to highlight for you, if you click on this link here, say you can see screenshots of all this information. If you click there, you will literally see how to click on every button in Canvas that you would ever need. And all of this information is right there on the home page. So that's the home page. And then for this week, if you click on that module button, you will see your first month's content. You will have all the information of your level up tutors right there. You'll have session 1 materials, which include the video we have from today, the transcriptions of the video, and any material that is associated with this session. You will find all the material here. For this first month, we would encourage you to go into discussion forum 1 and introduce yourself. You can obviously comment and greet other colleagues, friends of yours on the discussion forum just to get to know each other. But most importantly, I would invite you to complete this forum 2, which Shoni will talk about in the second half of our session today. For forum 2, we would invite you during this first month to reflect on the biggest change that you can make in your digital fundraising funnel. This is not something that you need to do this month. This is what you think is the biggest change you can make between now and your Colorado Gives Day. What is the biggest thing you can do? How can you make that decision? Well, we will invite you to complete a mini audit. The due date of this mini audit is the 26th of June. 26th of June. So you have about 8 days to complete this mini audit. Our tutors will review your results and design our next session based on your answers. You will have all the questions that you'd ever need to put in this mini audit in a Word document you can download right here. So you can have all the questions, and then you can input the answers into the link that we also put down here in your session 1 for you. So that's what you would want to do before the 26th of June. Once you complete your audit, Shoni will also tell you today about how you can think about your data so you can reflect on, well, based on my mini audit, I think my biggest change in my digital fundraising funnel is X. You'll say whatever that is, and you post your thoughts into this discussion forum. And your tutors and your peers will feed back to you to say, oh, great that you think this. Why did you think this? What is the piece of information allow you to draw this conclusion? And it will help you think through things. For some of you, the mini audit might provide you insights that you have never seen in your digital fundraising before. For others, it might be a snapshot of what you do on an ongoing basis. Wherever you are in your digital fundraising, what this mini audit is doing is to simply put all of us onto the same page to say, we can't make digital fundraising decisions without data. And here is how we're going to think through benchmarking data, our own data, and use that to inform our decision making. So that is your discussion forum 1. That exercise is what you would want to listen for as Shoni goes through her content, because practically she will talk you through all the questions that you need to answer in the mini audit and how you're going to use them. So that about to conclude Jordan and my introduction to welcome you into the Level Up program, introduce our roles, show you the 12 months map, show you the Canvas platform, and for you to ask any questions that you have. You're welcome to type all the questions you have into the chat box, and we'll answer as many as we can without crowding too much of Shoni's time. If there are questions we can't answer here now, we will address them in the Canvas discussion forum. All right, so feel free to type as many questions as you want to type in, and we'll address what we can here.
Looks like we're getting a number of the questions answered in the chat, which is great. Thank you very much to Catherine and Jordan for jumping in. Maybe we'll just, and most of them seem to be technical access questions, so it's probably better if we deal with those digitally.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so there is one question for Jen and Jordan from Dean. Are we able to share elements of the program with our teams?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I got a couple other ones similar in the chat. So you as an individual are signing in, and we need one person to be the main person, logging in, completing the Canvas actions, and attending the webinars. That said, or I should say, also with the copywriting course, only one individual can become certified. So only one person, you, are going through it. So in that way, we do like to have one main person be the one going through the course and interacting with the course throughout this time frame. That said, all of the webinars, as well as the slide decks, will be posted on the nonprofit resources page, so available and accessible to all nonprofits. And that means that your team can see the recording and the slide deck post-event. We'll also likely stick those links in Canvas, so it's really easy to access all of that either in your Canvas learning platform or on the nonprofit resources page. So again, yes, one main person going through it, but you can't do this alone. And so we want you to be sharing this methodology and this information and your new strategies with the rest of your team. Catchafire, that program that allows you to build your capacity, your entire team can use that. So Susie from finance can use it. Your marketing team and sales team can use it. Your board members or executive team. So that is one aspect of the platform that everybody can immediately log in and benefit from for your organization. I hope that helps. That's a great question.
Absolutely. It does look like there are quite a few technical questions that people are raising in the chat box. So for all those questions, Catherine will be around today all the way out to the end of the webinar today and beyond for another 15 minutes. So if you have any technical problems to get into the Canvas platform, please do stay around and make sure that you work that through with Catherine before you leave today, so you can participate in the rest of the monthly activities. So with that,
question from Audrey about, is there a compilation of the types and deadlines of activities and assignments throughout the course?
Yes, we can provide that also in the homepage. Absolutely. Shoni, would you like to start your content, and we will address the chat, if not here in the chat, in the discussion forum, so you can we can make sure that you can cover the content you have prepared for today.
Wonderful. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I think there's a little bit of lag in the slide advancing from when I see it, from when you're seeing it, just based on when I was getting cues from Jordan and Jen. So I was trying to pre-anticipate, and sometimes I went too early and sometimes it was laggy. But as we've had this wonderful introduction, we're going to jump into really laying a foundation for digital growth today. And so you're going to hear from myself and from Jen, Professor Jen Shang. And here's a little bit about us. So I'm based in Vancouver, Canada. I lead a team of 57 fundraising and Marcom specialists. And we have and we are very strong in digital. So we have a significant group of those folk who are in the digital space, either specifically as digital fundraisers or across the organization's digital engagement, social media, and the data specialists that fuel that. So I recognize I'm speaking from a position of privilege of having a tremendous amount of resources. When I started with the organization, we were making about 5% of what we're making now on digital. It has grown a lot, and we had no one dedicated to this. So so I like to set that base, because it's if these don't look like your resources, it's easy to get discouraged and say like, well, yeah, sure, it can be done if you have a team of 8 digital fundraisers. But we've also done it off the side of our desks with no one dedicated to this. So I know that we can, start from practically nothing in an immaterial revenue stream and build it up big, and along the way be able to justify that investment. So I've been working in either direct response or digital for 29 years, and I am a graduate of the copywriting certificate that you will be doing with the Institute, and I've also done their philanthropic psychology course. So I can reiterate the value of, I did not appreciate in my first couple of weeks the value of engaging in those forums, because you think you're just answering one question, and then you get some probing questions back, and then you get one of your co-participants weighing in with their perspective and their experience, and really you come out of it by that back and forth with a lot more learnings than you went in. So as a graduate, I highly encourage it. And I'm going to just turn it back over to Jen for a second to give her background.
Yeah, and many of you would have seen me through the webinars that I've given on thank yous and play for love. And I would just want to welcome you all once again to this program that we offer. And what differentiated what we do at the Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy and what I do in my own research in philanthropic psychology from any other training programs that you can attend anywhere else in the world is that our research and our education is focused on the science of how people love. So yes, we're absolutely interested in the bottom line economic performance that you can create for your organization through digital fundraising. But we use the philosophy and the science that help us focus on the people, how they love, their own well-being in order to achieve your financial bottom line. So that's what differentiates what we do from what practically any other fundraising training on the planet. And every tutor that you see in this program, they all have been trained in philanthropic psychology and philanthropic psychology-based copywriting. So the whole team who are supporting you through this journey have lived, breathed, and applied this in their day-to-day life after they have learned the science and the concepts. So to address one of the questions from the chat box, will we incorporate current events and trends and daily concerns of digital fundraisers? Absolutely, that's what we're here to do. We are here to help you apply what we can teach you to your daily activities, both in the discussion forums and in any other means of communication that we can have. Back to you, Shani.
So really, and Jordan already highlighted the learning outcomes for today. So I'm not going to reiterate those, but what we're going to be talking about is a way of thinking about digital to help you start building a strategy that will drive significant sustained digital fundraising growth, and that will increase your resilience as an organization. And I think this is a great segue from the question Jen just led with, because in other parts, other streams of fundraising, it's possible to learn the theory and it not evolve much. Like there's changes in major gifts, but how we do major gifts as a one-to-one relationship still looks very similar to how it was done before. We can update and change, and we can bring in the philanthropic psychology, but the tools haven't changed. Same with direct mail. There's incremental change over time, But digital is changing so rapidly that what we really need to give you is a way of thinking and puzzling through problems, because the problems that you're going to come across and the challenges and opportunities in digital fundraising in June 2026 are going to be entirely different from today. So I can't give you a sort of memorize these things and then apply them over and over. We have to give you a way of being responsive to the trends in the world so that you can say, okay, what's happening right now is very different than it was last month. And here's how we're going to iterate and evolve our digital fundraising to respond to that. So that was a great leading question. So we are going to look over the coming months at some of the tools and tactics for and for using these, how you use these digital tools and tactics, how you can optimize them and tweak them to get better results. We're also going to be looking at that engagement and the relationships rooted in that philanthropic psychology. And then we're going to return to strategy again. But I'm hoping that this will provide you a useful framework to start hanging those other pieces on and seeing how they're interconnected and how they're driving these larger overarching goals for your organization and how you can adapt as your conditions change. So first of all, it's really useful to start with, how do people define digital fundraising? Because there's actually sort of 3 schools of definitions, and some will define digital fundraising strictly as the tools that you get. Those online platforms to collect donations for a cause or organization. And that's a very sort of transactional tool-based look at it. And there are still some people saying in 2025 that, oh, well, digital is really just a transactional way that direct mail donors can go online and process their donation. And so that, that misses, that's one part of what it is, but it's not the whole part of what it is. So I want to talk about the other parts as well. Also, a way of being and engaging. So it's about leveraging those digital marketing strategies to create those online communities where we're nurturing those individual relationships. And then can it be viewed in that sort of very holistic environment where you're also looking at the digital marketing or advocacy your organization might be doing, digital organizing or community building, where people are learning your digital tools using them for learning or for service access or delivery and what you're doing. So it's part of that ecosystem that's about engaging people in a community. And then the third way is a process way of looking at it. So it's that integrated, ongoing, repeatable processes. So you're having these, you're doing this on a mass scale, but it's driven by data so that you're looking at individual donor behavior, you're delivering personalized communication, you're automating a lot of it, and you're testing so that you're learning and constantly tweaking and evolving so that you can get better results over time. And this, of course, includes the leveraging of technological process through AI. So, these are all related to each other. You cannot separate them, but it's important to consider these 3 aspects when you're looking at it. So when we're talking about an effective strategy, we want to consider all of the components of each of those, but we also want to consider a why beyond this year's fundraising goal. And it's really hard to get to that point because we all have, our targets that we need to hit, and our organizational well-being in that year is based on those targets. And so it's easy to see the revenue as the only goal behind something. But what I tell, what our sort of guiding principle is in our fundraising program at the BCSPCA is that every fundraising initiative has to have 2 jobs. It has to deliver annual revenue this year, and it has to contribute to your long-term fundraising resilience. So we're actively auditing and cutting activities that do not also deliver on the second principle. And again, I recognize that that's a luxury that you evolve to over time, that we're all in spaces where we're like, this revenue is not great for us. Like, it puts an unreasonable expectation on the organization. It takes too much of our time. It creates too much of a dependency. But for now, we need this revenue. It fills a gap for us. And so part of how we position digital in our organization is it's a means to help us get rid of unhealthy dependencies on things that aren't building towards our long-term organizational resilience as well. And so when we look at that, well, one of the things we're looking at is the dependency quotient in our organization, and our balance in our fundraising activities between the cost of fundraising and our dependency quotient. So the dependency quotient is the sum of contributions from your 5 largest organizations or funders as a percentage of your total organizational expenditures. And so when we talk about grants and major gifts and planned gifts, they're really attractive, especially to smaller organizations with limited resources, where securing this one large gift has a huge positive impact, and it can keep the cost to raise $1 really low. However, these come with a very high dependency quotient. If you lose your top 5 fundraisers or your top 5 donors or funders, this can create a vulnerability to the organization. And you particularly see that where there's changes in like a broad change in funding priorities or economic downturns. And we're certainly seeing a lot of instability right now. So what we want to look at is where can we reduce our dependency quotient to make our organization more resilient? And digital is really well sorted to this, because while typically activities that have a low dependency quotient come with higher costs, like direct mail, you're like, okay, I'm not dependent on one individual donor, but if I choose to mail to 10,000 more people or 2,000 more people, or whatever would be a huge leap for your organization, that comes at a really big cost. And so it's hard to scale up without really increasing the cost. The nice thing of digital, it has that low dependency quotient of something like direct mail. But once you've got your platform in place and you've got your technical supports from Colorado Gives or what other tools you might use as well, then you can keep your cost relatively low as you scale up. So it's very helpful to get you to a place of being more resilient. And what we see, I work in the animal welfare fundraising sector. We do a lot of work with organizations in US, Canada, UK, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand to have a sort of 6-country look at that. And what we see in our analysis there is, of course, smaller organizations tended to have much greater reliance on high dependency quotient activities. And anecdotally, we see this across the sector. So I acknowledge that when we have a range of sizes here, you're all at different spaces in trying to move yourself towards being more resilient over time. So that is, one thing of why digital fundraising is good for that resilience. And I start with some of this making the case, and you may be sitting there saying, I know the case, I'm here, I signed up. But we have 2 jobs as fundraisers. One is externally focused. One is showing people in our community how this cause that they believe in wholeheartedly, that is an essential part of who they are, that by them becoming engaged with us and giving to us, they can move this cause forward, they can move this mission forward, and it helps them be the kind of person they want to be. And that fuels that resilience. And you're going to hear more about that in philanthropic psychology. But we also have an internal job. We have an internal job to help show the rest of our organization where strategic investments in fundraising are going to help catapult the mission forward and make our organization more resilient. And so part of understanding the case of why digital, why now, what its strengths are, and where you should be focusing on is helping to give you the tools that you can make the case of why you need to continue to make year-over-year investment in growing digital fundraising so that you can continue to see significant growth and more resilience as an organization. So what other fundraising problem does digital need to address? Because we know our need for resilience in terms of our annual fundraising, and we feel that on a day-to-day basis. So it's important to look at what the sector data is saying about the number of active donors. And this is pulled from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, and you can all use that. It's a wonderful resource to give you insights into your donor base. And the sector stats data shows we're in the 4th year of decline of the number of people donating. And this sounds like, you know, it's only the 4th year and it's a limited problem. 2020 was an unusual year. People were caught at home. They were really needing to feel like they could be in control of their lives and effective and have some sort of autonomy in this whole out of control situation that they were facing in their lives. And so we saw over the sector a real jump in fundraising growth. And if you look back beyond 2020, if you look back to 2019 and years before that, you see that we've been on a steady trend decline for a while. So this is a sort of challenge that's been going on for a while. And what is the impact of this over time on your donor base? So at the BCSPCA, we have a model to look at what happens if we take typical industry sector trends that we're seeing in terms of retention of existing donors, acquisition and retention of new donors, reacquisition of lapsed donors, percentage of a donor base that is a monthly donor, a reoccurring donor. We put all these into a model to say, what would happen if we followed these typical trends over time? And then we put in our own results. What would happen if we follow our results over time? So this is this is what would happen if you take those sector results and look at an organization that had a donor base of 100,000. I start there because it makes percentages easy. So if you follow all of those organizational trends for 10 years, the result is that unless we change something, we're going to have a donor base that's only 56% of what it was 10 years on. It's only going to be fixed 56% of what it was. Now, organizationally right now, or sector-wise right now, we've been able to mitigate that a little. The impact of that trend of fewer donors has been masked by fewer people giving more, and that has allowed for overall revenue growth. However, that's unsustainable over time. People aren't going to, you know, that pace of giving more and more and more. And as we just talked about, it makes the organization vulnerable. So we know that this is a trend we want to reverse for our health. So it's important to look at our own data, and that's what you're going to be asked to do in the forum, to look at your own data to help you focus in. How many active donors have you got given in a particular year? We're going to look at 2022, 2023, and 2024. And we're going to look at what the trend is. And I mentioned that, of course, this has been going on a little longer. So if you have comparable data from 2019, also look back at 2019. Look, are you continuing to fall from 2019? Or were you at 2019, you had a big spike in 2020, and then you've sort of been more level setting since then and regaining what would have been a normal trajectory. So it's important to, if you have that, look at that as well. But very definitely look with the data we're asking you to collect, what is your trend in the last 3 years? And you can see from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, that tells you a little bit about where the vulnerabilities are. We're seeing a drop straight across the board in acquisition of new donors, in the retention of new donors, in the retention of repeat donors, and in the reacquisition of recaptured donors. So we're seeing vulnerabilities everywhere, but here sector-wide, we're seeing more vulnerabilities around the new donor acquisition. And so if you're seeing that as well, that if you're, that might be where you choose to focus on, that we're seeing that ability to attract new people in is the most significant drain on our overall donor base right now. So that might be where we focus on. Or you might see that stayed stable for you, but where you're seeing losses in that retention place. So that might be where you focus. What we found, however, overall in the model that we use at the BCSPCA is there is no one solution to reversing this, this sector-wide drop that we're seeing in our donor base. We're seeing, this is a page of graphs and models on my dashboard that shows if I just tweak new donor acquisition, or I just tweak new donor retention, or lapsed reacquisition, et cetera, I don't get there on its own. I have to be looking at all 5 of these pieces to turn things around and start seeing growth. Now, Jen always says when I bring in like, hard reality. She says, we focus on the positives and uplifting. And my uplifting message here is that this is something we've been working on since 2017. We've been doing philanthropic psychology. Our team is trained in philanthropic psychology. We've invested a lot in digital. We have seen 47% growth in our donor base over the 5-year period. So it's not set in stone that this is happening. This is just the trend that we're fighting. And so, we'll hear a lot about people saying that there's a generosity crisis. I think this is really misnamed. If it was a generosity crisis, we'd see that shifting these trends was outside of the charity's control, that this is people are fundamentally less generous. This is not actually what we're seeing. We're seeing that with strategic focus and organizational investment, some organizations are significantly growing their donor base. So we need to learn from them, because what we're not seeing, I don't think we are seeing a generosity crisis. I think what we're seeing is that we need to respond tactically with better, smarter communications that build more resilient relationships. And we need to harness technologies to be able to scale that up and do it in a cost-effective, more resilient way. And when we do that, we can use digital to build this more resilient place. And so I think the role of the digital fundraiser and digital fundraising in your organization has never been more important for that. And so in the book, looking at the Chappell, Crimmins, and Ashley, looking at the generosity crisis, the concerns they're raising are very real. It's just an approach that I'm saying of like, let's rethink this, let's reframe this as something we actually have in our control to address. But they talk about radical connection. And so the way I want to think about radical connection as we go through this work is we're thinking about what makes digital fundraising unique. And we've talked about that it has low dependency quotient and lower costs than some of the others have that. So that's a really good reason for investing more in it. But it also has some characteristics that are not unique in their own to digital fundraising, but when taken together, create a dynamic in our relationship with donors that is quite special. So one looks at unintentional consumption. So as a donor, you can intentionally buy a ticket to an event. You can agree to meet with a major gifts officer. You can choose to open a direct mail envelope. However, a charity's digital content may be inadvertently consumed. You're scrolling and you see it, you're seeing just the teaser in ahead of the subject line in your inbox. You're seeing it in your social media feed. You're seeing it in digital advertising as you're scrolling on other sites. So it's sort of a ubiquitously present in your life, and that makes it a little different. There's also constancy. We may hear again, a major gift officer, we may hear and a couple of times a year. We may receive 4 to 8 direct mail letters a year. As a digital supporter to an organization, we're likely to have, honestly, we want to get to the point where they're having sort of daily contact with us. This isn't daily emails. This is, and I know there's always a push-pull in an organization of how much is too much. And we're going to talk more about the M&R benchmark study on that. But when you look at their 2024 results, and they say the average organization there, these are generally high-performing digital charities, they're averaging 62 emails per year per subscriber. So more than 1 a week, 27 of which are fundraising emails. But additionally, people are getting to the point where most of them are posting 1 to 4 times a day on social media. They've got digital advertising out in the digital sphere. So people are constantly hearing from us, as well as not being able to necessarily control whether they're consuming it or not. There's also immediacy. When you have breaking news, your digital folk should be hearing about it from you, not from the media. This should be happening simultaneously. And so they're reacting in the moment to the trends. It's not something that a letter that they're getting or a grant that they're getting that's taken months and months to develop. This is something that you want to be saying, this is happening for us right now, and part of our responsive plan as an organization of dealing with a sudden call on our resources. There's a wildfire, and our organization is helping to respond. Is people, we're building in that up to the minute responses so our supporters know what's happening and they're feeling like they're in it with us. And then the last aspect is that real-time dialogue, that folks are emailing back and should be getting a response pretty quickly within that day. They're on social media, they're making a comment and they're getting an acknowledgement right away. Thanks so much for your support. Great idea. Here's where you can find this resource. That this is a back and forth. And so these four together, taken with that ability to scale and customize, create this dynamic that makes the relationship deliver that sort of radical connection. And especially when we take this radical connection and we twin it with the philanthropic psychology, so it's meeting people's needs for well-being and helping them to identify, helping them clarify for themselves, this is how I identify as a good person, as a person in my community. This creates a really strong bond in digital that helps build that resilience. So as we go, you're going to be getting tips throughout. This is how you make your email stronger. This is how you make your Colorado Gives page stronger. But I want you to start today with asking yourself, am I delivering on this radical connection? Am I so ubiquitous that that people are unintentionally consuming me? Am I delivering constancy? Am I delivering immediacy? Am I engaging in that dialogue back and forth? That special dynamic that is why people come to digital. Because if we're not delivering this, The Gap is definitely delivering this. Amazon's delivering this. The people are engaging with in an e-commerce way are delivering this, and other charities are delivering this. So if they're coming to digital because they're looking for a special type of dynamic around these characteristics, to keep them with you, they need to be getting it from you as well. And I recognize this looks different depending on your size. You may be at a point of like, we're sending one email a month. Getting to 62 a year per subscriber is not realistic. But what is the next realistic for you to take in social to get to that point? So that you're building towards that point where people are feeling that they have that relationship. So in doing this, and this is sort of a again, looking ahead to the next couple of months, because I want you to be thinking about the core purpose of these tools that you're using and how they fit into building a strategy and a way of thinking about digital fundraising. So you have a whole pile of community drivers that are going into this fundraising funnel that is your sort of digital environment. So what is your brand your reputation in your community and your brand identity? Are you a well-known, established, loved brand? Or are you starting up but are doing really new and exciting stuff and there's been a lot of chatter about you? What is that sort of going in? What is your cultural relevance? I mean, there's times where we're working is just right where people are focused on at the time, and we can really build on that. And there's times where there's something else happening in the world, and it's really hard for us to get that sort of people, that spot in people's minds, that real estate, because they're focused elsewhere. And that ties into the geopolitical climate as well. And sometimes that geopolitical climate will take people elsewhere. They'll be very concerned about what's happening elsewhere in the world. Sometimes it really harnesses because people are feeling like, I need to do something right now to take care of my community and the things that I hold really dear. And that provides that opportunity for growth because you're giving people a sense of hope that they can change the things that are going on around them that are scaring them, that are a concern to them. And also driving into that is that earned media strategy. So where people are where your fundraising and your marketing communications are the same person or the same team of people. That makes it really easy to have it very integrated and holistic. Where you're not the same people in an organization, working really closely to ensure that we're driving people into becoming aware of us in synchronicity with our fundraising practices. So once we've driven all that in to being aware of our organization, I'm going to talk about the sort of core purpose of each area. And that's not to say that that's their only thing. All of social media, website, email, and SMS, they're all doing all of these things, but they each have one that's their particular strength. And if you took that away, your organization would really suffer. And social media is really good at bringing in mass audiences, helping you to grow your mass audience. But you need to get people from being engaged with you in social media to becoming your constant audience that you can engage in taking actions with you, that you can drive them off the social media platform onto your platforms. So we're bringing people in, and then we're driving them to the next stage on social media. When we get to the website, what we're doing there is trying to convert people. We want to have a way that's within our control to have a second and third and fourth and 24th interaction with these donors. And we get that by them giving us their email, whether they're signing a petition, whether they're making a gift. We're taking that relationship that's sort of impermanent. They've landed on our website, they're interested in us, and we're converting it to a more permanent relationship. Of course, within the bounds of applicable laws around subscriptions and consent and your ability to opt in and opt out. And then what we're doing through email and SMS, the core purpose, again, is to nurture that relationship, so that we're building up that long-term resilient relationship with the organization. So we're beating that sector trend of people giving to an organization for 2.5 years. So we're seeing donors who have 10-year, 20-year, 30-year relationships with our organization, because it's a deep and meaningful relationship that's an essential part of who they are, that leads in the end to increased legacy giving, because they've had this is just defining who they are. And when they think about expressing that through a legacy gift, it's been built out of that long-term relationship. Now, as we go through this last part and we talk about how we're going to learn more about our donor base with our data, it's possibly going to show up that there's an area where you have a gap here, or an area where you have a particular strength. Lean into that strength. Do more. Can you do more of it? This is a strength for you. So can you increase the impact of that strength, and be aware of where your gap is? Because, for example, if you're finding that you have these great long-lasting relationships with your donors, but you're not feeding them at the top of that funnel, then your core purpose of your digital strategy over the next little while may be focused on that new donor acquisition and new donor retention, which doesn't just start with, oh, I got to get a donor. It starts with, how do I attract people into my funnel? How do I get them from being on social media to taking action to giving us the email? Because sometimes often asking for money is not the easiest way to get the email. We're running lead generation all the time, where we're saying, enter this contest to name a puppy. I know we have puppies, which is a wonderful thing to have in fundraising, but name this puppy for a contest, and they'll give us their email, and then we have their email, and then we can build the relationship, and then we can ask for a gift. Sometimes it's signing a petition. Sometimes it's pledging, I will not take this action, or I will change this in my consumer behavior, for example. Sometimes we're asking people to, we're offering something. For us, it's like sign up to download this resource that has tips on keeping your pet safe. For others, it might be recipes for healthy living if you're a health charity. There's all these different ways you're bringing people in, and we're going to go more into that in the social media week. But that might be where your focus is. Whereas if you are saying, like, actually, we're bringing a lot of people in, but we're not capturing them, we're not building that ongoing relationship, you might be looking more at, well, what do we need to tweak on our website pages to convert audiences? What do we need to build in that email and SMS text relationships, so we're building stronger relationships so they're coming back? So just a way of thinking about what is going to be coming, what conclusions you're able to start drawing from the data you're getting. And as you go through, like I said, in July, we're going to talk about emails, and then through website and social. That's going to help you show some gains everywhere. By applying what you're learning in terms of the tactical ways, and then applying what you're learning in the philanthropic psychology ways, that's going to have a lift all over by applying that. And so there's a marketer, Andy Cristodino, that would look at some of his way of looking at things, and he talks about, are you a tortoise or the hare marketer? Are you looking at some gains everywhere? I talk to my team about being a tortere, because we're an animal-based charity. We use a lot of animal things. So we're part tortoise, part hare, because we're trying to do both things. We want to continue to build and show some gains everywhere by optimizing. That's important to continue to build stronger in what we're doing. We don't want to be a bright, shiny object like, oh, new thing, sparkly thing. We're doing this. We're constantly doing something new all of the time. So we intentionally focus our time on how much are we going to give to innovating, and how much are we going to give to sort of, this is the reliable foundation that you can depend on. But you can look at it and say, what would happen if I could nudge up my response rate to my email by 1% this year? What impact? I know my average gift. I know my donor base. I know how many people I'm sending it to. If I could nudge that up 1%, how much more money would that bring me as an organization? So you can see where to focus in trying to nudge up. But you also want to spend some time looking at that big long-term resilience piece of what is one or two innovations that you can take that will be a big leap forward for your long-term donor base health. And then that's the problem as fundraisers we're trying to solve. If our donor base is growing right now, we're trying to keep it growing because we know there's these external pressures. We can't rest. If our donor base is plateaued or shrinking, we're needing to build into there. And that's not just about that new donor acquisition. That's about that retention as well. So building those long-term relationships. But also as we go through this data, identifying that one thing that this is beyond tweaks. This is going to take us to actually have an organized strategy for the year to fill this gap in what we do and have something new. So I mentioned lead generation earlier. Maybe as an organization, you're not building up your own list of prospects. So you're depending on organically people coming to you for the first time. We're used to buying direct mail lists. Direct mail has had a long history of buying lists, but how can we build up those own lists for ourselves in digital? That might be the fundamental innovation you focus on this year. But there may be other ways as well, that as we go through both your data and then the next number of months, that you're going to see, well, this is the big missing piece. And so as we look through the year, we're trying to incrementally build and improve and build up to strength for end of year giving, which we're kicking off with at the end of the year with Colorado Gives Day and the impact of that as a giving day. But we're also thinking to, over the course of the next sort of 18 months, of what are we building so that each year we're gaining strength and filling some of those gaps. So I mentioned the M&R benchmarks report earlier. This is an amazing resource for you to see where the sector is at. And keep in mind, these are averages. And these are averages of organizations who, because they've been able to fill in these, spend the time in these surveys, tend to be larger organizations, although they do have a spread of small, medium, and large, tend to be people who've been actively doing digital fundraising for quite a while because they're seeing value of it. So it's not a necessarily, it's a snapshot of the participants. So when you see, but when you go in, there is the opportunity for you to put in your own data and benchmark yourself too. So you can take some of the data, put it in, and then it'll compare to what they're finding in the sector. which is very useful to have, so that you're not worrying about whether you're comparing apples and oranges. You can see that, yes, this is how I compare to the sector as a whole, but also more targeted if whether you're in human social services or animal environment or health or whatever. And when you look at that, when you see, here's some areas where I'm below average, it gives you some guidance of this is a great opportunity for growth. You know, rather than like, oh, we're underperforming here. You know, if you look at this and you're overperforming in everywhere, it becomes harder to find incremental growth. If you look at it and you're like, here's an area where we're underperforming, that gives you guidance of we can actually see significant growth in our digital revenue and our long-term donor base health by investing in this area. So what we're seeing overall, we saw last year change in, we saw a drop in revenue. We're seeing more shift to monthly, and it's important to tie this. I mean, it's one thing to sort of tie this back and say, okay, it's you know, there's a number of different factors. There's economically where people are at. There's that fewer people are giving, but we also see these shifts where it's positive to more people giving monthly. That's smaller, and it may in a given year be or it's smaller per gift. And so you, as a smaller organization, sometimes it's hard to say like, well, if they can give me $100 right now or $10 a month, we're halfway through the year, I'd actually take the $100 right now. But, you know, long-term organizational health, those monthly donors are more likely to stay with us for 5 to 10 years versus one-time donors, it's 1 to 2 years. So we start to see in this data some of the trade-offs of where we're trying to balance out our needs to meet our fundraising goals this year with our long-term resilience. I also want to talk about list growth trends, because this is that top of the funnel piece of we will see when we see list growth quite small or going down, we're seeing that that's going to have a knock-on impact on fundraising growth next year, because this is your list of prospects that you have to ask for. You have to ask for a gift. So we want to start considering how are we feeding earlier in the funnel. And when we started as an organization where the fundraising team started putting in money into our budget to pay for lead generation activities, where we're saying, sign up to get this pack of bee-friendly seeds, or sign up to get this digital guide on keeping your pet safe, or all of these other things, the recipes, or all of those other things organizations will do. We had got a lot of pushback from our organization of like, this isn't fundraising. Get out of your lane. Why are you spending money on just getting people's names? And we had to show this funnel of, if we don't get people's names, we have fewer people to ask for a digital gift, and we're not driving enough people to our website, and we're not able to see growth. So as you're looking through, be conscious of that connection between growing that list is a strategic investment in order to grow that digital revenue. And also wanting to flag for folks to, I'm just pulling out a couple of the areas in the M&R benchmarks, because there's a lot of richness in there, and every year there's a theme to it. This year it's delivered as a book of poetry, which makes for interesting reading, is how you get your metrics, not usually how you get your metrics, but it's a different theme every year. If poetry is not your jam, have faith that next year it's going to look a little different. But knowing where this share of revenue is coming from and being able to drive that is also a really important thing of looking at. You know, if the majority of your revenue is coming from existing donors, then you're going to be able to attribute it to your email. You're emailing them, they're giving. You're not getting a lot of other people landing on your website organically. So, you know, that is that area of strength. You may find that if you're building more of bringing in new donors, that they're either coming in directly organically to your website because you've got earned media and they're aware of you out in the community, or you're building a good social media presence and they're coming in through that, and you're building up your audience there and then able to move them from social media into your website and email to give. So also worth comparing yourself to what the sector is showing you in terms of your sources. And that gives you some guidance, but also look at them, be aware sometimes of the obvious interpretation of data. Like we look at ours, and our share of online revenue from email is lower than the sector average. Now, the initial look of that is, oh my goodness, we're not doing well at email, we should strengthen our email. But it's actually because our social revenue trend is so much higher than the industry average that's just, it's redistributing the money. So we have that second strength that's redistributing it. And so it's not actually reflecting a weakness in email, but a strength in social. So just be mindful when you look at your data. But I want to end up by bringing this all together and showing how we use this over the past 5 years to drive significant growth. So our active donor base had plateaued for the past few years. We looked at our data, we had some contributing factors. Our donor retention was healthy. 20% of our donors were giving monthly, so that's a really healthy amount that are sort of reliable, pledged, ongoing revenue. Our lapsed reacquisition was doing okay. There was room for tweaking it. We needed to do more of it, but it was performing reasonably. And our social and email conversion to donors was healthy. So when we got them into social, we were able to get a significant percentage over to our website and convert to become a donor, or to sign up for an email, and then we could get them into our email chain and then convert them to a donor that way. But what we found were our traditional new donor sources were in decline. We had been doing direct mail acquisition for years. We had been doing, for those of you who are familiar with the Sarah McLachlan ASPCA animal welfare ads, I'm very sorry. They started with the BCSPCA in Vancouver, Canada. We acquired a lot of new donors that way. We saturated our market. We haven't been doing them for years, but they live on in people's minds. And we had people that would be coming into, we run 37 animal care centers across our province. And so we had people that were coming in to our centers and giving. And we had a big peer-to-peer fundraising walk every year that we held in our locations across the province. That had been driving our new donors for years. And those started to taper off. And they were all beginning to perform less and less. And we weren't replacing with something with scale. So our donor base had plateaued and then was starting to drop because we didn't have a new donor source. So we actively invested in feeding our new donors. So we developed that lead generation strategy. I've got a sample of one of our ads here. People, anything we can do to ask people to give us their email so that then we can have future communication with them, because we know the rest of our funnel is actually quite strong if we can get them in. So we were able to convert 5% of those leads that we got to donors annually. Knowing that helps us justify our investment, why we're spending money on stickers and getting people to sign petitions. So we've got the lead generation right as new donors. We've developed an emergency response fundraising. So we have a whole toolkit for whenever there's a news story about an animal in need, or whenever there's an emergency like the pandemic or wildfires where we are providing services, we can get out our fundraising within that first couple of hours. So it's going out with a media release. And we're bringing in new donors by advertising in emergencies as well. So with that, we were able to, by identifying where the problem was, by leaning heavily on digital, where 87% of our new donors are originating from, we grew our donor base by 46% in 5 years. So I want to do this as an illustration of all these little pieces we're seeding and ways of thinking about it. We're going to ask you to start collecting that data, not all the things you can measure, but a good starting point, and start to see where those areas of focus are for you for those great leap forwards that you can make. Acknowledging that throughout the course of this year, you're also going to be doing optimizing work for what you're doing. and that great leap forward should be really focused in just one or two things, or a half a thing over 2 years if you're a really small shop. Like there's the reason why that Franklin Covey, goal setting starts at 1 to 3 goals. As if you set 10 goals, you're likely to achieve one of them. If you set 1 to 3 goals, you're likely to achieve all of them. So let's be really, really focused and mindful of your resources as you move forward. And it's okay also if you have to say, this year, all I can do is optimize, but that's going to buy me a little space next year with that incremental growth in order to be able to start setting a direction, or just having that direction in mind that you're doing, but thinking about that long-term organizational donor-based health. I know I'm coming up right to the end where I'm going to turn it over to Jen to go back to give people some insight on what we're going to see in the webinars, which I know we've spoken to briefly, but we want to wrap it back up again. Over to you, Jen.
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to begin by saying that I have been listening for Shoni to say what she just said to me in the last 3 years. Almost every conversation I had with her, she says almost identical things, but every time she says exactly the same thing, I hear more and more and more and more every time I hear her. So if at the moment you feel overwhelmed, welcome to the club. That's how I feel every time I talk to Shoni. She's got so much information that is like way overloading for my poor brain. So you are amongst company if that's how you feel at this point. I do have to grow used to her. So the good news is that you will have the recording of the video as well as the transcriptions from the video. So my first recommendation for you is perhaps take some time to review the content and to read the transcriptions before you go on to complete your mini audit, because that will help more of the content that Shoni shared today to land for you. But if you go to the next slide, Shoni, when you feel like you are ready, you can log on to the Canvas website and start to work on your forum that you will see the title S1, Session 1, Forum 2. And when you log in there, you will see the mini audit that you will input by clicking on a link, but all the audit questions are in a Word document. So you're welcome to download the Word document as your guide to think through how you're going to use the mini audit. The purpose of that mini audit is to help you to establish some benchmarks for you to compare to yourself later on, and for you to think about what else you want to ask yourself. So the mini audit does not meant to be a comprehensive set of questions that you need to ask yourself in order to strategize. It meant to be a starting point for you to think about your digital strategy in the framework of what is the benchmark can rely on? What is my own data? What is the purpose of why I'm doing what I'm doing in terms of reaching annual revenue goals and building my database's sustainable resilience? And then what I'm going to do next. So what that mini audit is encouraging you to do is to begin to help you build up the muscle of thinking in a different way, starting by incorporating the dimension of long-term donor-based health. So it really only meant to be a starting point. But the more you listen to the video, read the transcriptions, think about why you are tracking what you're tracking, and then track your numbers, the faster you will grow and the more meaningful these numbers will be for you. Next slide. After you complete putting your numbers together, we do want you to type your answer what's the biggest change needed in your digital fundraising fund? Long-term donor base health. Just type any answer you have into the discussion forum based on what you will have learned in the next week from your mini audit. And I will tell you that whatever you type in then is probably not what you are actually going to do, because you're only are at the very beginning stage of your thinking about maturity in digital. So don't be shy, but don't be afraid either. Just type in whatever you have so that your tutors and your peers and we can all grow together. And on that note, we're bang on at 10:30 you're in the morning. I would say by the time we finish today, you will have Becky Carlino, the one who is going to help your dream come true in the next 12 months, to hold your hand in any way. Already in the chat, we hear people saying, well, you know, this form of giving is not my cup of tea yet. That kind of giving at the moment doesn't feel good. I mean, you might even feel that about digital, and that is completely normal. And it's entirely welcomed and embraced throughout the process. And Becky is the one there who is gonna address every concern you have on the discussion forums or any other way that you feel might be helpful for her to reach out to you. So Becky, do you want to quickly say hi, and we'll let people log off when they feel they need to leave?
I am here. I just wanted to say hi and welcome. I'm so sorry I missed the beginning. It's been that kind of day for us here in Ohio, but welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy to meet you. And I love chatting with you in email already. Send me your questions, open your hearts, open your minds, and we'll have so much fun together. So thank you.
Absolutely. Jordan.
I feel so inspired. I am so excited, and I just can't thank you and Shoni enough, and everybody who attended today. So yes, if you have any questions about the program, Becky's your girl. Anything about coloradogives.org, I can set up a one-on-one call, or you can email support. We are so excited to kick off this year. So thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. So you're free to go. All the information will be posted. If you want to hang about and ask any other questions, we'll be around for another 10-15 minutes or so. Very nice to meet you all. Look forward to see you in the discussion forums.
I love that. Thanks, Esther. She says, thanks for easing me into Colorado Gives Day. It's true, because it comes up so fast. I can't tell you how many nonprofits say they have to turn around and execute. So that's what we're hoping comes together for you.
And it's such a build that, you know, if this gives a chance to start flexing muscles now of like, oh, I'm gonna try something new, and then it becomes really second nature by the time we get to that sort of peak giving time of the year, which is, we joke about having 10 and a half months of deep learning and 6 weeks of frantic fundraising. I mean, not that we're not fundraising the time, but we're more reactive in that last 6 weeks of the year. So it's good to be doing our sort of deep thinking and testing during this period.
Absolutely.
Right. Looks like no more questions. Everybody's hopping off. Shoni, I don't think I'll ever get past that you guys were the Sarah McLachlan originators. I love it. It's just ingrained in my mind from childhood.
You know, whenever I'm in the States and talking to animal welfare fundraisers, I have to apologize to them because because smaller organizations, it's frustrating when you see a large national organization be so dominant in an area. Yep. And they're like, really? thanks so much. We've got our shelter in our small community and we're trying really hard. And then those ads come on.
And they're
Well,
still
and
running.
hopefully, yes. Well, and hopefully that inspires them to go to their local shelter. Maybe, I don't know, but thank you all so much. Do you think it's okay for us to hop off at this point?
Yeah.
Looks like we're down to just a few. Yeah.
Okay.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.